When the new guy moved into the apartment next to mine, I barely noticed at first. It's a quiet building, mostly retirees and people who keep to themselves. But he was different. He arrived at night. No movers, no family, no noise, just a dark sedan and two suitcases. I remember watching from my window as he unlocked the door. His movements were slow, careful, methodical, like he'd done this before over and over again. The next morning, when I passed his door on the way to work, there was already a faint smell in the hallway, metallic, like rust or old pipes. I assumed it was from the building's heating system. But then over the next few days that smell got stronger and stranger. His name, according to the mailbox, was Daniel R. Hale asterisk. Never met him in person, not properly, just glimpses. He always wore dark clothes, long sleeves even in the heat, and a baseball cap pulled low. His blinds were always closed. At night, though, I started hearing things. Faint thumps like furniture being moved. Once a dragging sound across the floor. Another time something that sounded like whispering. Around 2 a.m. one night, I went out to grab a drink from the vending machine in the hallway, and as I passed his door I heard it. A low hum. Rhythmic, like an old recording on repeat. I froze. Then, without thinking, I leaned closer. It wasn't music, it was a voice. A woman's voice, faint but distinct. And she was saying the same thing over and over. Please don't, please stop. I barely slept that night. My brain kept trying to rationalize it. Maybe it was a TV or an audio file or something, but it didn't feel right. The next morning, I saw Daniel in the hallway for the first time. He was taller than I expected, pale, with dark circles under his eyes. He smiled when he saw me, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Morning," he said softly, voice flat. "Hey," I managed, forcing a smile back. "You just move in," he nodded. "Yeah, just settling in." I tried to keep it casual. "If you need any help with furniture or anything," he cut me off. "No, I'm fine." Then, without another word, he turned and walked into his apartment, closing the door behind him. As I stood there, I noticed something that made my stomach twist. On the floor near his door, a single brown-red stain. It looked a lot like dried blood. I told myself it wasn't blood, it couldn't be. Maybe paint, maybe rust, maybe anything else. But once you asterisk see something like that, you can't unsee it. Every time I passed his door, my eyes went straight to that little stain, and every time it seemed darker. 2 days later, I came home early from work. The hallway was quiet, the usual hum of the building barely audible. As I turned the corner, I saw Daniel's door cracked open just a sliver. Curiosity got the better of me. I stepped closer, holding my breath. From inside came a faint clicking sound, like a camera shutter. Then a low murmur. I leaned forward just enough to peek inside. The lights were dim, but I could make out a wall covered in photographs, hundreds of them. Faces, buildings, cars. Some were blurry, some circled in red marker. And right in the center was a photo of asterisk me, standing in front of my apartment door. My heart jumped into my throat. I stepped back, nearly tripping over my own feet. Just then the door creaked wider. Daniel was standing there. He didn't look surprised, just amused. "You shouldn't be looking in other people's homes," he said quietly. I wasn't," I stammered. "The door was open, I thought." He tilted his head, studying me like I was an insect pinned to glass. "You thought what?" I swallowed hard. "Nothing, I'm sorry." For a long, tense moment, neither of us moved. Then, still holding my gaze, he slowly closed the door until it clicked shut. I ran back to my apartment, locked every door and window, and sat in silence for hours. That night, the photos haunted my dreams, especially the one of me, because in it, I wasn't looking at the camera, but Daniel was asterisk right behind me. The next morning, I called the building manager, told him something was wrong, that I thought my neighbor might be dangerous. He sighed. "You're not the first tenant to say that," he said. "The last guy in that unit, he complained about weird noises too. Then he broke his lease and left in the middle of the night." "Did he say why?" I asked. "No, just that he didn't feel safe." That made my skin crawl. I decided I needed proof. So that night, I set up a small camera in my peephole. one of those motion-activated ones I used for security deliveries. If Daniel came near my door again, I'd catch it. At 3:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected. When I opened the feed, I saw Daniel standing perfectly still outside my door, just standing, for 8 full minutes. Then he smiled at the camera as if he knew it was there, and whispered, "You shouldn't have looked." I didn't sleep at all that night. I sat on my couch, phone clutched in my hands, replaying the footage over and over again, hoping I'd imagined it. But it was real. His voice was faint but clear, that same eerie calm tone, like he was enjoying the fear he knew he was causing. In the morning, I went straight to the police. I showed them the footage, told them everything, the sounds, the photos, the smell, all of it. The officer leaned back in his chair, squinting at the video. "Creepy," he said. "But technically, he hasn't broken any laws. Standing in a hallway isn't illegal." I wanted to scream. "He's watching me, he's recording me." The officer just sighed. "Look, we'll do a welfare check. That's all we can do right now." When I got home, the hallway was silent again. Too silent. His door was closed, but I could feel him on the other side listening. The next day, 2 uniformed officers knocked on Daniel's door while I watched from my peephole. He opened it halfway, just enough for them to talk. I couldn't hear every word, but the tone of the conversation shifted quickly, from calm to defensive. Then suddenly, Daniel laughed. A low, sharp sound that sent chills down my spine. One of the officers frowned and said something I couldn't catch. Daniel lifted his hands, palms open, as if surrendering. They spoke for another minute before leaving. As they passed me, one officer muttered, "Guy's odd but clean record. We can't do anything." Later that night, when I checked my peephole again, something new was taped to my door. A photo. It was me again, but taken from inside my apartment. I tore the photo down and locked every bolt I had. I checked the windows, the vents, even the tiny crawl space above my closet. Nothing. But I couldn't shake the feeling that he'd somehow been inside That night, every sound felt amplified: the ticking of the clock, the creak of the pipes, the faint hum of the fridge. Around 1 a.m. I heard footsteps in the hallway again. Slow, heavy, stopping right outside my door. Then a soft knock, 3 taps, slow, precise. I didn't move, didn't breathe. My phone buzzed, motion detected. The live feed showed the same thing as before, Daniel standing there, expression blank. But this time he was holding something in his hand. A key. He slid it into my lock and the door handle turned. I lunged forward, throwing my shoulder against the door just as it gave a little. "Get out," I yelled, voice shaking. "I'm calling the cops." He didn't answer. The pressure on the handle stopped. Then I heard his voice, low and almost disappointed. "You shouldn't make this harder than it needs to be." My blood ran cold. I grabbed the nearest thing, a heavy lamp, and stood ready in the dark. After a few agonizing seconds, the sound of his footsteps faded down the hall. I didn't sleep again that night. At sunrise, I went to the landlord and demanded a new lock, different model, one he couldn't possibly have a key for. The landlord looked uneasy but agreed. By noon, a maintenance guy replaced the whole lock assembly. When I asked what happened to the old one, he shrugged. "Weird thing," he said. "The cylinder was scratched up like someone tried making a copy." For a few days, things were quiet. No knocks, no whispers, no photos. I started to think maybe he'd backed off, maybe the cop's visit had spooked him. But that hope didn't last. On Friday evening, I came home from work and noticed something subtle but terrifying. My door wasn't flush with the frame. The new lock was slightly bent, as if someone had tried forcing it open. My stomach twisted. I immediately checked the peephole footage, scrolling through the day's recordings. Most clips showed an empty hallway until 2:46 p.m., when Daniel appeared again. He was crouched in front of my door, his face only inches from the lens, smiling. But it wasn't just his face that scared me. In his other hand, he held something small and metallic, a key-shaped mold dripping with some kind of grayish material. He'd been making a new copy. That night I decided I wasn't staying there anymore. I packed a duffel bag, booked a cheap motel across town, and left the building just before midnight. As I passed his door, I noticed faint murmuring inside like he was talking to someone. I hesitated, listening. Then a female voice responded. It was quiet, trembling. I froze. Another voice followed, Daniel's. Calm, steady, almost comforting. "You'll be fine here," he said softly. "You always come back." I bolted for the stairs, heart pounding so hard I could barely see straight. At the motel, I barely slept. Every shadow in the room looked like him. Every creak made me flinch. Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed, motion detected. I forced myself to look. The camera showed my empty hallway. But then, slowly, his apartment door opened, and Daniel stepped out holding a large trash bag. Something moved asterisk inside it. The next morning, I went back, against every instinct screaming not to. The hallway reeked of that same metallic smell again. His door was closed, but a thin, dark streak trailed from it down the hall to the stairwell. I followed it halfway before stopping. The streak ended abruptly, no bag, no trace. I called the police again, asterisk, demanding they come check. When they arrived, Daniel opened his door as calm as ever. "We got a report about a possible disturbance," one officer said. Daniel smiled. "Garbage leaked." My mistake. He even held up a clean trash bag as proof. The officers looked at me, then back at him, and finally shrugged. "Next time, try double bagging," one joked. They left. As soon as the hallway cleared, Daniel turned his gaze to me. His smile was gone. "You shouldn't keep calling them," he said, voice low and flat. That night when I returned from grabbing food, there was a note taped to my door. It read, "Asterisk, you're next." I was done being scared. I called a friend, my coworker, Jamie, and told him everything. He didn't believe me at first until I showed him the footage and the note. His face went pale. "Man, you can't stay there another night," he said. "Pack up, come crash at my place." I agreed. We decided he'd come over after his shift to help me move my stuff out for good. Until then, I tried to keep busy, pacing the apartment, checking the peephole every few minutes. Around dusk, I heard movement again. But this time, it wasn't outside my door. It was above me. In the ceiling, tiny creaks, slow, deliberate, someone crawling across the crawl space, right over my living room. And then a faint sound of wood shifting. Something was being unscrewed. I looked up and my heart nearly stopped. One of the ceiling vents was slightly open, just enough for a pair of eyes to stare back at me. I stumbled backward, screaming. The vent cover dropped to the floor with a metallic clang as Daniel's face appeared in the opening. His mouth curved into that same eerie smile. "I told you not to look," he whispered. I bolted for the door, yanked it open, and sprinted down the hallway just as Jamie's car pulled up outside. I didn't stop to explain, just screamed for him to drive. From the rearview mirror, I saw the window of my apartment flicker with light. Then movement. He was watching me leave. We drove across town, straight to Jamie's place. He made me call the cops again, but by the time they arrived at my building, Daniel was gone. His apartment was completely empty. No photos, no belongings, nothing. It was like he'd never lived there at all. The police tore the place apart that night, fingerprints, photos, residue tests, everything. But Daniel had erased every trace of himself. No ID, no lease records, not even a forwarding address. The building manager swore he'd signed paperwork, but when he went to pull the file, it was missing. Like it had never existed. The only thing they found inside his unit was one thing left behind in the kitchen sink, a single Polaroid photo. It showed a dark room, a chair, and a pair of tied hands resting limp over the arms. The person's face was obscured. The detective in charge looked at me with something between suspicion and pity. "We'll keep you posted," he said, though his tone made it clear they didn't expect to find him. That night back at Jamie's place, I couldn't stop replaying every sound, every word, every stare. There was no logic to it. Daniel had vanished, but I felt like he was still close, watching, waiting. When I finally drifted off around 4 a.m., I dreamed of the vent above my ceiling slowly opening again. A week passed. I tried to return to normal life, work, gym, coffee runs, but nothing felt normal. I kept thinking I saw him, a tall figure in a hoodie, a flash of pale skin, the curve of a smirk. Every time I blinked, he was gone. Jamie tried to calm me down. "He's gone, man. They'll find him eventually." But then something happened that made my blood run cold. One morning, I got an email from an unknown address. No subject line, no message, just a single attachment, a photo. It was me asleep on Jamie's couch. The timestamp was from that same night. I dropped my phone, heart hammering. There was no mistaking it. The camera angle was high, like it had been taken from the vent above the living room. We tore the apartment apart looking for cameras. Nothing. Not a single device. But when Jamie climbed onto a chair to check the vent, he froze. "Dude," he whispered, "you need to see this." Inside, wedged between the duct and the insulation, was a small, black plastic box with a red light blinking faintly. A tiny camera, hidden, and attached to it a slip of paper. Jamie handed it to me. On the note were 4 words, scrawled in thin, shaky handwriting. "You always come back." We called the police immediately. They took the camera, promised to trace it, told us to stay somewhere safe. But I could tell by their faces, they didn't think they'd catch him. That night, I booked a hotel 2 towns away under a fake name. I didn't tell anyone where I was going, not even Jamie. For 3 nights, nothing happened. I finally started to relax, maybe this was really over. Then, on the 4th night, the hotel receptionist called my room. "Sir," she said, her voice hesitant, "there's a man in the lobby asking for you, says he's your brother." My entire body went numb. "What does he look like?" "Tall," she said, "dark jacket, ball cap. Said his name is Daniel." I hung up without another word, grabbed my bag, and slipped out the emergency exit at the back of the hotel. My hands shook as I drove off into the night, headlights slicing through the darkness. I didn't know where I was going, I just knew I had to keep moving. In my rearview mirror, I saw a pair of headlights following me. I drove for hours until the highway disappeared into the countryside. The other car stayed behind me the whole time, keeping distance, never overtaking. When I finally turned onto a dirt road and killed the engine, the headlights behind me stopped too. I sat there in the dark, every nerve screaming. Then slowly the other car's door opened. A figure stepped out, tall, still, familiar. Daniel. Even from a distance I could see that same faint smile. He raised his hand, something glinting between his fingers. A camera. He didn't speak, just pointed the lens at me and took a photo. The flash exploded in the night like lightning. I floored the gas and sped off, heart hammering so loud I couldn't hear anything else. That was 3 months ago. Since then, I've moved 3 times, changed my number, deleted every trace of myself online. But 2 days ago, a package showed up at my new place. No return address. Inside was a single Polaroid. It was me, standing at my new front door.